When you work out by yourself, can you tell if a move would work in a game or not?
Right, right.
So what that means is you have to know what doesn't work. So you need to make mistakes. Here's one easy tip. Slow, fast, slow. They don't just go quick and then shoot. That's too easy. Like, it's always the same speed. So it can be like slow, fast, slow, and then pull. So that's a gap in perception. Easy, right? Cool. So go out there and make more mistakes in conference play, because by March, you'll know what works and doesn't work. That's right.
So then when did we start working out?
8th grade, some point in my.
That seems about right.
No.
And then did we start right away with groups? Like we didn't do any like individual training, right?
No, I think our first workout was actually at UWS, and it was just like, I think it was Grace there maybe.
Yeah.
It was like me, Grace.
Because I started with her first.
Yeah, it was me, Grace, and maybe my brother.
Because she didn't go to Marshall that year, right?
No.
Yeah, she was going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started, you didn't even really know her.
No, yeah.
Like that's really important because I didn't even have this down. One-on-one workouts. Because me and you do a lot of one-on-ones. Early on, do you think you would have benefited more from one-on-ones that we're doing now, or do you think the groups, it was better to start in the groups?
This doesn't really answer, but I think the mix was good because I think when you're with a group, you can we were able to do a lot more like reads and reaction, which I think has like helped me an insane amount. But also like individually, I feel like you were able to work on what I need to work on specifically. So I was able to take some of the stuff I did one-on-one into group training. So I think like me being able to do a little bit of both like really helped me.
So then what age do you think it's really important to do more individual things? Because like you think about your 8th grade year when you started to like become a really good impact player in varsity, and then 9th grade is when everybody was like, okay, she's really good. She has a chance to be pretty good. So kind of right in that age is where you were just like, okay, I'm all in. Like I'm whatever it takes kind of thing, right? Yeah. What do you think the ratio should be for you looking back at that versus what you know now? 60-40, 50-50, 75-25. Doesn't have to be perfect. Like in your head, if we had a 7-day week, how many of those should be, what should that mix look like?
I think maybe just like for a year or so, do maybe like 60 individual, 40% group. And then like as you get older and a little bit better, I think, so maybe like in that middle of like high school, do more like group setting stuff. So like maybe flip-flop that. And then now that I'm in college, I think individual is very important. So I think it kind of an ebb and flow of where you are within your career, just because the different types of growth you get from like group and individual.
One of the things that I've noticed too is because everybody asks for a one-on-one. I think it's not only in your point of career, but how good you actually are, like how good you understand the game. Because one of the things people don't understand about you is you have instincts. So like when you first came back, you were like, my one-on-one skills are, however you framed it, you were like, they're not the same as it was because I don't get to do it as much. Fine. That doesn't go away. Those are instincts. So like game instincts, like you could put you in a game, or maybe people say like, man, how does that kid who's not the most athletic kid, average 19 a game? Because you see things before they happen. I don't think you get that in a one-on-one workout, right? So the idea is, what got you those instincts? What do you think that led you to do more one-on-ones as opposed to a kid who probably needs to do more group decision-making stuff?
I think I naturally have a little bit of it too, but I do think it was like we played, like when I think back to like high school training with you, like we played a ton. And like during COVID, we basically essentially like quarantined together outside, and we were like,
we were safe.
Yeah. We played outside, like we were outside playing every single day. I think we like would get live reps every single day.
Yeah.
So I think like that definitely was like game changing. And like when we played the most, I feel like in my high school careers, like kind of like I saw those biggest jumps.
Yeah, that's really good. Number one thing I tell people is play as often as you can. The hard thing was COVID forced us to play.
Yeah.
Like you said, we were outside. I think now when everybody's so hyper, like everybody has to have a trainer. Everybody has to have a trainer. You would still say, like even if you were right now in 8th grade, you would say to yourself back then, I would prioritize playing over formalized training. I mean, both are important, but I'm saying the playing is the one that really separated you feel like, with your instincts.
Yeah. I also think though, like sometimes you did things in our like live play that would like, I can't like think of anything specifically, but I feel like you would do or say things that helped us like work on certain skills. I feel like a lot of times, which was helpful because sometimes sometimes it's just like a group of friends get together and play, it like, I don't know, it's not super beneficial. Right. But when there's someone there and like, it's like, we want to work on this, here's some things to help you do that. I think that's extremely helpful because then you're like thinking about it and you're conscious. So that it does become an instinct. And then when you get to a game, you just...
That's kind of that intentional piece you talked about,
Yeah.
right? So like I asked you that before when we were just shooting around. It was like, how would you describe our drills? You said intentional and intense. That's alliteration. So like, why did that come up for you?
I think intentional because, I don't know, I think sometimes with trainers, and I'm not saying this is wrong at all, but it's just like, I don't know, it just seems like some things like maybe you can just do on your own, like a bunch of moves in a row and then just go do a layup. Whereas like when I work with you, I feel like it's a lot of how you move your body or change your pace. And it's just like very intentional to individually how I can move better or finish better. It's not just very like standard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you talked earlier about constraints, really, is what you were saying. So when I'm playing live, I'm like, all right, we're doing this, or we're taking away that, or it's, the obvious one is like 3 dribbles or less. That's like the easiest constraint.
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it as a player to buy into that? Because some of the stuff I do is weird. Because you have this plan, you have a plan every single time you work out, nothing goes to plan. Because I see something and I said, nope, we got to do it. You know, you get the idea. You tell me, like, what was that process like to buy in?
I think maybe starting off, I didn't know much, so I kind of just was almost like forced to buy in just because I didn't know any better. But I think I've grown to appreciate it because like in games and practice or whatever, nothing ever does go to plan. Like you want a game to go a certain way. So I think there's a little bit of beauty in the chaos that maybe comes from like little challenges that you don't expect.
The standard in AAU is showcase your stuff. It's literally a platform to be evaluated. So you go from that environment where you're training to impress coaches to now you're training to get to a Final Four. What are some of the biggest differences in your approach when you were trying to get better for AAU versus college? Was training for AAU that important? Or now that I've been through this for 4 years, probably would have prepped more for this kind of the long game, if that makes sense.
I feel like a lot of my training was just to get better personally, and I think that carried on to AU and that helped high school. And I think like when you're playing a high school, like what coaches want to see is you like how you help impact and make a team win, because obviously everyone wants to get recruited, but if you can somehow make that happen. But I'd say my approach in college was different because everyone is good, everyone is deserved to like be there. So I feel like a lot of where I tried to improve was like the looks I would get in college. When I was by myself, I'd do a lot of scoring in ways that the looks I got in our offense. Now that I knew the system I was going to be in for that 4 years, I guess.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So Utah, obviously, you're in that left corner a lot, right? Like, so give an example of like, if you're in the middle of the season at Utah, what kinds of things are you doing on your own when you say those game-like shots?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of just, we would do handoffs. I think everyone in the world knows that. So just like making reads, coming off handoffs a lot. So I would envision like defense going under, so I'd shoot the three behind, or I would envision them chasing, so me curling, getting to the basket or for a pull-up. Just like kind of little reads I would get in the games a lot, or what I feel like, even if we had a scout how I felt like they would defend me, a lot of my prep would just be like kind of getting looks like that.
So you're more or less, I hear you say the word envision. You're not being told to do this. You're envisioning this yourself.
Yes.
Kind of taking responsibility for your own kind of stuff. On average, how many players do you feel at the Division I level? Let's just start with your conference. So you played in the Pac-12 when it was the best conference in the country, in my opinion. So if we have 15 kids on a roster, how many would you say actually put in the extra work on average? More or less than 5?
Maybe around 5.
Okay, let's just say 5 out of 15. That's 1 out of 3. Wow. Okay, so then of those 5, how many are intentional and actually taking, like responsibility? They have the awareness to say, I need to do this, I need to make this read, versus maybe they need somebody to tell them what to do, or they're kind of just going through the motions. How many of those 5 would you say are actually very intentional? What does your gut tell you?
Maybe 1 to 2.
Okay. So the idea is, if we're looking at that, out of 15 girls on a roster, 1 or 2 are being really intentional and purposeful about the work they're putting in outside of practice. Tell me why you felt the urge to be intentional in your own work, and then how did you feel like that translated to games?
I think the reason I had the urge to be intentional with my workouts is just because that's what I knew, because that's what we did. So I think that was helpful. I think maybe some people, it's hard to like know how to train a certain way if you've never done it, but it helped me feel more like prepared and confident going into games, because I was like, I'm getting reads in games that I feel like I've practiced hundreds of times before. So I'm not doing it for the first time in the game. I've already done it. Like, maybe it's not exactly the same, but it's similar. Like, I've moved that way, or I've shot behind the screen hundreds of times, so that it's not like the first time I've done it.
For kids following your path is very unique. So we'll open it up a little bit. What are some of the things you've seen, maybe we haven't talked about, maybe we have talked about, that truly separates you to be an impactful college basketball player?
I'd say it's just like kind of maybe realizing what you're great at and trying to master that. Obviously, you should try and get better in every area, but I know I can shoot the ball. Like, I'm going to find ways where I'm in positions to shoot the ball, because that's like what I'm great at, and that's what Utah recruited me for, UCLA recruited me for, all the teams that I got recruited by. That's kind of where they probably saw me a little bit, is I can shoot the ball and score the ball. So I just think finding what you are great at and continue to find ways to master that, so that when you get to the next level, you're able to do that.
So then how much do you work on the stuff you're not good at, the stuff that you're still trying to develop but you're not a master at?
I still feel like I spend a lot of time on it because I want to master it. I do feel like I kind of work out a lot of time, so I have time to do both.
That's an important thing. You spend a lot of time in the gym, so you can develop the things that you only see 5% of the time.
Yeah, I think I don't know, we kind of talked about this earlier, but you just never know what can happen in games. Maybe like the last game-winning bucket could be like a pull-up, and if me working on it and getting time in my workouts was just only had one pull-up in the whole game, but it was the game-winning bucket, like, I'm willing to put in the work for that. And I mean, a lot of times, like, there's more opportunities, obviously. I'm just giving that as an example. Right. But I would just say, like, to me, you never know. There's going to be opportunities for something even if you don't expect it. And I think we talked about this a little bit after my first year of college. Growing up, like, we would work on things, maybe like layups that maybe I didn't ever use. But, like, to know I have it in there, like, just gives me extra confidence, because then I feel like I have in my mind, like, every which pathway to maybe get a bucket. If the defense plays me this way, like, I know I've done this before.
Yep.
To do that. No.
So you can go into that situation, let's say against help or a double team, or you can drive with confidence knowing whatever I see, I can make whatever play or execute any skill that needs to be happening.
Yeah, because I've done it before.
Right. And that takes a lot of work for something you may or may not see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I hear you, like, talk about all these things. One thing we haven't talked about yet is film. It's like everybody thinks working hard is going in the gym and sweating a lot. I tell people this all the time. They don't believe me. Like, there are workouts you and I will talk for 45 minutes, or there will be times where we just watch film. Those have to be kind of stagnant. You know, like, it's got to be kind of like, all right, dude, like, everybody would rather shoot than watch film. Just open it up. What's the importance of film? How has it impacted your game? Do you actually see it show up? Do you see all those film sessions adding up? And then how much time do you think is worthwhile? Like, what would you tell yourself or other kids? This is why film's important.
I think it's definitely important. And when I had my injury, I think that's all I really could do. I think for me, it's kind of helped slow the game down for me, because the more you watch, I feel like that's a big way to improve your IQ. Just because you can see yourself in a situation, or your teammates, or whatever you're watching in a situation, and you can think of all the ways, just put in your head all the ways that something could have happened either the same or differently. I feel like sometimes when you're playing, you can't really like think of all those options just because something's happening so fast. So I'd say, like, kind of just helps me slow things down, so when I get out there, like we talked about, maybe seeing stuff before it actually happens.
Yeah, the way I think about film is like it erases all of the nonsense. So if I've seen myself on film do something poorly, or a ball screen like, oh, I didn't know they were hedging this way, I should have done this kind of thing. The next time you're in a game, your brain logs that. It just, the more you watch film, the more you see it, and then you train it, obviously, it logs that. So now when you're in the game, let's say you just got scored on because you messed up the scout. Well, it's really, really difficult to turn the page and then remember, oh, when a hedge comes, I got to split it, or I got to square hips and throw. Like, you don't have time to think about that, to your point. So film actually cuts down the noise, the chaos, so that if you do make a mistake, or in a game when you're playing against the best, or really pressure high Final Four level game, it's like a chessboard. Like, you can kind of see, this is the move I have to make before other people.
You just see it as it is. Like,
sure.
There's nothing, like, you might think something happened and you're like, oh, well, actually they were a little bit flatter than I thought I could have. pulled it out another dribble or whatever.
Without film, do you think it's possible for the game to slow down?
I think yes, but just a lot more time. Like, I feel like it's harder for it to, because I feel like you have to, if you're gonna, you have to put yourself in the same situation a lot of times for it. Whereas if you watch film on a situation, you already see it how it is.
Right. How young do you think kids should start watching film?
To start playing like high school basketball, because I don't know, I think middle school it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Traveling through the law, yeah.
Yeah, like I think high school, where maybe people take it a little more seriously.
Sure. Yeah.
I think for me, it was just understanding that I love basketball and that's why I'm doing this all. So to me, it honestly didn't like usually bother me too much, just because I love playing the game and I knew things would work out how they're supposed to work out, and they did. So just, I know that's easier said than done, but I truly just love playing basketball. I like getting better at it. I like setting goals and reaching goals and finding challenges. So I think that's really important, is just remembering the why of why you do basketball. Still finding joy in it. I think a lot of times if you get caught up in rankings or offers and stuff, it can be hard to like be joyful about it. But that's why I do it, is because I love it and I find joy in it. I feel like I got to where I am because of who I am. I'm unique and I might not be the strongest or the most athletic, but I have different skill sets that maybe those people that are more athletic than me don't. So just being confident in that and finding ways to utilize that to my advantage, where maybe I'm a little bit harder to guard because I do move slower, but it's different than what people have seen, or my length. I use my length that maybe people haven't seen. So I think those are the biggest things. Just remembering why you do basketball and just being fully confident in who you are, because usually you can't change it. So, sweet.
That was good, thanks.
Yep.